I'm Gail Green, the owner and co-owner and co-founder of Living Adventure. We're an outdoor recreation company specializing in sea kayaking. And I started a career in arts. Really, out of college, my first work was in stained glass work and design and creation of artworks. And I think that was the beginning for me of the discovery of the concept of sort of giving voice to experience. And through creative voice, through actually working with my hands, and as a way of expressing all of the feelings that, especially as a youth, you start having inside as a young adult. And I discovered, unknowing to myself at the time, revealed later as I matured, that art and creative expression was a way to stand outside of the experiences I was having and understand them in a different way, looking at them in an objective way. The foundation of creative expression, I think, is instinct. Yeah. And learning how to understand each one of us are instinctual. Basically, that's sort of where I think the creative voice started in myself. Meanwhile, as a parallel life, I was recreating outside in the outdoors heavily. I skied, I kayaked. And so that part of me was building as well, and that was probably the predominant part over the years. I was just an outdoor enthusiast. I loved to ski. I loved to get out in nature and just engage fully with nature. Drop down 3 feet of powder slope, drop down a rapid in a river, and just not only love nature but get out there and wrestle with it. And so that sort of part of who I was developing along with the art part. As I moved out of art as a career, kind of the starving artist thing, you know, and sort of the reality of making a living on that, I moved into the outdoor profession as a career, particularly in sea kayaking. And so I started instructing and guiding, making my living on that, and sort of moved away from the art and the creative voice part until I eventually came into founding with my husband Grant Living Adventure, so an outdoor-based company. And I found that being immersed in the details of owning a small business, the creative voice was sort of very silent. And I craved just an avenue for expression. So I found that as the kind of the chief designer of our programs, through program design, the way that we put people out in the outdoors, I could marry the creative voice again with the outdoor experience. And so for me, the most exciting part of the business became designing programs where the outdoor piece, the kayaking, the going in the nature was the base for different kind of growth, a different kind of way to experience nature through the creative voice. I tended to start moving away from the word art a little bit because people are art and it's like, I'm not a painter, I can't do it. Kind of like, I'm not a kayaker, I can't do it. Talk about it as creative expression it's wider, because everybody, and where I was going with that was we all have different ways of expressing ourselves. And if you think of emotion as energy and motion, the creative thing is kind of putting our emotionality into movement, into form, and where it's not so stuck within. So some of us are painters, and we're very, very visual people, or photographers, where standing outside the experience and painting it or capturing it on film is our way to externalize that experience. Some are writers. Some can look and feel that day we had out paddling, or that outdoor experience we had, or the excitement we had about identifying an pileated woodpecker or whatever it was, and write a little bit about it. Yeah. That's how to get it out. Others are movers. And so possibly the dancer or the yoga person or the mover will take an experience they had outdoors and translate it through a dance. Yeah. or a breathing exercise. Tactile toucher feelers, the clay people, like our ceramics trips down in Mexico, for example. People are out in that environment, in the sand. They literally come out of the water with sand on them and touching that beautiful, grainy Yucatan sand. Then they walk right down to the clay table and they shape up and sculpt, and they're touching the clay. So for them, the tactile things, those kind of tend to be the food taste people too. Sure. Where that hot sun and that salsa dance and everything are transmitted through, a really inspired recipe that they come up with. The follow-up piece with all of that is what we have in common. That's the relative piece, is taking that written piece or that dance or that recipe or whatever it was that we created, that voice that we gave to our experience through that multimedia expression. Those are our totems. Those are our personal totems, our personal signs that help us get back to really reliving the experience. To remembering how it was to be in nature. Sure. To remembering how we felt exhilarated, and because, if we're buying that, the nature experience is what really grounds us, and might not be all for some, but I think ultimately it's so in our genetic makeup as human beings that we are nature beings. These things that we've produced from our experience sit next to our computers at home or in the office or something, and they're ways, and with facilitation and intention, we can load those as those pathways to getting back. We have these little icons that can keep us peaceful, that can keep us centered, that can keep us inspired or exhilarated, because we can't always be out there in those nature situations, right. But they can remind us about it, and they can remind us, I gotta go do that again. It's kind of how I see the link between nature and getting out in nature, in a way to, certainly the standalone experience in nature is powerful enough usually and good enough, and even if we're refreshed for a day, it's like, oh, that was good. But if we can build on it, and integrate it into our lifestyle, and integrate it as part of our life routines that keep us centered and understand it. And I think the understanding comes through that creative expression. Nature gives us the clarity to sort out all the stuff in life that we don't understand, and just take some minutes to try to understand it, or to write about it, or to dance it, or to shape it, or something like that. It's just it's a really powerful mechanism, and you can get better at it. You can learn. And I think one reason why I like doing this process in other cultures is because I see more and more other cultures not valuing those expressions.
What do you mean
as
by
good
that?
Or bad?
Yeah.
That's bad art. That's a bad written piece. Oh, I looked awkward in that dance.
Uh-huh.
We tend to value vertically, good, bad. But it's not about that. And I see that in the cultures more. They kind of tip the scale this way. It's just, that was me. So stripping that off is a sort of a challenge in the beginning in workshops where we're in nature, and trying to get people to just do it because it's you. For example, on a ceramics workshop, a woman actually from Two Harbors was on the workshop, loved the water. We went out snorkeling one day, and we snorkeled on the reef, and there's this beautiful purple fan coral that just, fans out, it moves with the motion, it's just gorgeous. So we were all particularly watching this big clump of it. Then we land. Later that day, this woman finds a piece of purple fan coral on the beach, just, it had washed up, still had a lot of color and stuff, and she was like, wow. And took that piece of purple fan coral. Later that day, she formed up a slab vase, roll out the clay, slab it together, shape it, and she took that fan coral and pressed it right into the vase, used that impression, and then pulled it off, and then glazed it purple. And she thought, she was one of these ones in particular who thought, she resisted. As a matter of fact, she came on that clay workshop with her partner who was interested in the clay. This woman wanted to just kayak, but every day she was kind of nosing over there, curious to the studio. And so this day she got swept into that whole process. She had seen the coral, she found that piece. So what about that? I think there's a lot of intention the universe about things like that. But she found that piece, made that vase, and fired it, and it actually came out fantastically. I have a great picture of her holding it, and you can see how proud she was. You can see how excited she was. She now does clay professionally. I think the marriage of those two, of the expression, the whole idea of giving voice to experience, and how do we do that? You know, you get out there for one thing, so getting out there accessible, and we're pretty good at, in our country, that's probably one thing in our country that we are good at over other cultures that I've seen, accessibility and skiing and kayaking and stuff, you know, special paddles now in the canoes, so people with disabilities and economic challenges and all those kind of challenges can get outdoors. And then I think giving that way to talk about it, to facilitate the experience in the outdoors, like so many outdoor professionals are doing, that's kind of the 1-2 punch for creating better you know, lives for people literally in the moment, and then mechanisms for them to, on their own, find their pathways.